Hey babes, what's up? It's such a beautiful day. I love this time of night here where I live. It's so peaceful. I'm hanging all my silks to air out. I taught some aerial yoga today. It's so great to be back teaching. It really is. I just love it. And, I get all walks of life. Where I'm teaching is a wellness retreat center, so it's pretty cool. Some people stay for a while. Some people are just 1 week, and then they're out the door. I've met such wonderful people. I'm meeting people that have lived in other countries and that have, relocated to the States. And I love getting to know about their lives. And, people go to retreat centers for all different reasons, and some of them are a little sad and upsetting. And I'm just glad that I can be a part of that. I mean, the team, the facility is amazing. The team is amazing. And to just know that you're a part of something that's so much bigger than you is just a really beautiful thing. And I'm grateful for the opportunity. And getting paid to do what you love is pretty dang cool, So it was interesting today. I was listening to a multitude of different people. And I love Simon Sinek. I've talked about him before. And I saw a really quick clip of him talking about having people believe in you and how much more successful you are if you have at least one person believing in you, believing in your mission, believing in your vision, and how vital that is for us all. It's very difficult to continually be the motivator and the champion of yourself. We need to do this. It's a life skill. We should become adept at that. We need to be our own cheerleaders. But, a lot of times it's that external factor or person who can really boost your confidence or your life or your mission forward. Of course, you have to do the work, and it's very hard work, but I love listening to Simon, and not everybody has a lot of support, so I'm always encouraging people to find community. It's something that I need to start doing here. I'm still in my hermit mode. I need to get out. I really need to get out, and I will. I have a little bit more time on my hands now, so I will be socializing. We'll see what my choice of poison is. I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out. And then I was listening to a story. I don't know. I love comedy. Leanne Morgan is one of my favorites. She's from Nashville, Tennessee, and she's just a hoot. I adore her. And she's very unique in the comedy world because she has grandmothers and grandchildren sitting in her audience. She's 57 years old, and I really didn't know her story. And I watched a short interview of her today, and I had no idea that it's taken her 22 years to get here. She started, she's a mom, so she talks about her family all the time, and I love that. Most of her comedy is based on her kids. And sorry, that was my neighbor. And I thought he was coming over here. Sometimes he just pops up. So I love how much her family is a part of her comedy. And we often hear this, like we see somebody being shot to fame and they're taking over social media. She's got like 2.4 million followers now. I mean, it's crazy. When I heard her story today, my jaw dropped, but I don't know why I was so surprised. So her, first profession and her love was her children. She was a stay-at-home mom. Her husband, Chuck's a really hard worker. And she started selling jewelry at like those jewelry parties. And she was booking out a year in advance because everybody loved going to her parties because she was so much fun. So lively and vibrant and funny. And people were encouraging her to get into stand-up. But in Tennessee, there was really no comedy clubs. So when they moved to Austin, Texas, and I guess her kids were a little bit older, she started to throw herself into comedy clubs. And it was really difficult. It was like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 3 steps forward, 4 steps back. She had a lot of disappointments, a lot of heartbreaks, a lot of empty promises. I think she was promised like 2 of her own TV shows that never came about. And she said that her agents were actually begging people to book her at one point. They couldn't get her booked because nobody wanted to take a chance on an older woman. And, you know, Leanne had the last laugh because she's 57 years old. And at 57, she's one of the most famous comedians. And so she just talked about her moment of thinking she was going to give up. And she didn't. And she just became relentless. And she never let up. She did, which I loved about her, because often people don't give you the exact tools that they harnessed. And she had said to her agent at one point, who she since has fired, but she said to him, I think I need to get more involved in social media. I need a social media presence. I don't think she had any at that time. And she was thinking of hiring a company to help. And he was like, he's like, you don't have the money, and that's a waste of your time. And, you know, you can't do it, and you're not going to do it. And she did it. Thousands and thousands of dollars she hired. She called them young boys, little boys. And she said she was going to give them 3 months, and they put out one video. The first video went viral, and she catapulted. She said within 3 weeks, she was booked out for shows for a year. She got a deal, a much better agent, and she went on her, Big Girl Panties tour, something panties tour, just hilarious. If you don't know who Leanne Morgan is, she's really a joy to watch. And that was just so inspiring. I loved that. She actually said in that moment of thinking, like, maybe I'm an imposter. Maybe I'm not as funny as I think I am. Maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. Maybe I'm not as good as people are telling me. She's like, am I one of those people on American Idol that doesn't know that they can't sing for shit? You know, she doesn't curse, but hilarious. And I think she had, you know, I think her family's had her back this whole time. I think her husband Chuck has been super, super supportive. I know a couple shows she's brought all of her family up on stage, and it's just so wonderful to see that. But it made me reflect back on what I was listening to Simon Sinek say in the morning earlier today about how more helpful it is for your confidence and your success and just overall well-being to have at least one person outside of yourself believing in you. And so, you know, I loved hearing her story, the great support network she has. I know she has some of the greatest fans in the world. Everybody that books her show says to her, like, nobody's fighting in the parking lot, nobody's getting hammered. So I'm really happy for her that it's taken all this time. I think her first Netflix special just aired in April of this year. I have not watched it. I have to look at that. I don't have Netflix anymore. I've unsubscribed to everything. I don't have a TV, but I will find a way to see that special eventually. And then I was listening to the Huberman Lab podcast. And if you don't know who Andrew Huberman is and you are a bit of a science nerd, you probably really like him. I kind of switch on and off with him, but I was listening to him, and honestly, I know I'm terrible at this, and I said I was going to write it down, but he interviewed somebody, and it was, he did talk about Dr. Jordan Peterson's 5 personality types and the personality traits that you need to be successful. And part of that, it was about risk-taking, being an innovator, risk-taking to create success, and how hard it is to be an entrepreneur that is more of a pioneer and an innovator doing something different, and how strong you have to be in yourself, because those types of people tend to get a lot of pushback. They tend to have a lot of people saying to them, you can't do it, it's not going to work, or they try to talk them out of it, it's not realistic, it's not rational. And so I don't know if you have ever taken Jordan Peterson's test. I think you have to pay for it. I haven't taken it, but one of the 5 traits is being disagreeable. And this guy, this expert, was saying that in order to be successful as an innovator, entrepreneur, you need to have a high level of disagreeability, because you cannot be swayed. And he was saying the downside of people who are disagreeable is they're disagreeable with everyone and about everything. And I'm sure you know those people. But the total opposite of that is somebody that's a complete people pleaser and, a doormat, and they get walked all over. So Andrew was saying, I have high disagreeability traits. Am I saying that right? Yeah, disagreeability. I don't know. I was a language arts major. I should know this. Andrew was saying he's high in that, and he's kind of always skated through life where he knows how to play by the book to an extent and play the game, but manipulate it so that he doesn't come off as this ultra disagreeable person. Like, he can be diplomatic, he can meet people in the middle, but still be disagreeable. So it was just really interesting, because if, somebody like Leanne allowed herself to be swayed, how many people want to become a comedian and are told, it's a waste of, you're never going to get discovered. It's a waste of your time, or you're not good enough, or you're not going to go anywhere. Or do you know how hard that line of work is to be discovered? Like anything, acting, modeling, music. But if she had listened, and she had the support, she had people that believed in her. She had multiple people that believed in her beside herself, but having that family backing is really, really big. But I just found it super, super interesting. The Huberman Lab podcast is available pretty much anywhere that you can get, latch onto a podcast. Spotify, I use Apple, and the Huberman Lab is fascinating. Like, super fascinating. I'm creating some curriculum for one of my jobs right now, and I've used some of his material as part of the curriculum, because yoga is so in line with a lot of the stuff that he talks about. He's a neuroscientist, so neuroplasticity of the brain, mindset, having a strong routine, especially in the morning, having your daily rituals so that you are priming yourself for success every day. Like they say in the military, every day make your bed. If you're leaving home and you're not making your bed, you've changed the whole energy of your day. So it's little things like that. But Andrew was talking about, it was on focus and concentration, because I'm creating curriculum right now specific for focus and concentration, using mudras, pranayama, talking about dristi, which is focus, a focus point, asanas, all of that beautiful stuff within the yoga realm, a lot of mindfulness to balance both hemispheres of the brain. And he was saying how our brain actually functions on a ultradian cycle. Ultradian, ULTRADIAN. Yeah, I think so. And so that's a 90-minute block. And in that 90-minute block, you have a heightened state of alertness, and then it dips, and then it elevates again. So he recommends working in 90-minute blocks. And then the interesting thing is your eyes are so connected to your brainstem. I mean, so much is connected to your brainstem, but there's that pathway. So looking up, so having your screen and your working materials eye level or a little bit higher actually enhances your state of alertness, because we know when we sleep, we close our eyes. So looking down, and we often do that when we're working, right? We're looking down. It actually enhances a state of sleepiness and drowsiness. What else do you talk about? Your bladder is connected to your brainstem. So he actually recommends in that 90-minute block, if you have to pee, unless you have a medical condition or it's agonizing, like pain and aggravation, holding it in, because it actually increases a state of mental alertness. I'm like, this stuff is so fascinating. He's just a really cool dude. He's a professor, I think, at Stanford. His podcast is outside of what he does at Stanford. I think he has his own supplement company too. But anyway, this is my way of sharing tools, You can find when you're feeling uninspired or life is feeling low or you're just having a blah day, the blessing of the internet is that you can really garnish this information anywhere. But Simon Sinek is just a super upbeat, optimistic guy that just knows his stuff, right? He just knows his stuff. He's very solid in himself, and he's just more to me like that happy-go-lucky. He just oozes warmth to me, where Andrew Huberman is extremely cerebral, and Simon is more playful, and Andrew is a bit more serious, but he's, charming in his own way, and he's just a plethora of information. And then I'm trying to think of if there was any other tool. Looking eye level or upward at your screens, that even goes for writing. Like if you can at least, I usually write with my knees bent like this and something on my knees, and then I have my notepad on my knees. So I'm not looking down so much. And then I'm trying to think, because I think there was one other tip that Andrew lent that was so helpful. But I love working in the 90-minute blocks, setting a timer, taking a break. I've always said when it came to corporate, and I think we're catching on. I think a lot of corporations are catching on that we are just not designed, like I say about kids in the classroom, you're not designed to sit in a chair and crunch away behind a screen encased in four walls, breathing, filtered air under artificial lights. I mean, this is the unhealthiest thing for humans. You have no idea. I tell so many people that are cramped in an office all day, especially with no windows and no view, no sunlight coming in, it is the death of the soul. Like, it should be abolished. It just should be not allowed. And I'm being sincere when I say this. We know that we need to be outside. We need vitamin D from natural sunlight. And then brain foods for focus and concentration. Blueberries, salmon, really high quality fish oil. I know there might be vegans watching me, and I know sometimes I could be a real jerk about veganism. I honestly have not met one healthy vegan. I'm not saying it's not out there, and I'm not saying it's not possible. But the vegan oils, I don't know. I've talked to so many, even psychiatrists that prescribe fish oil, and they will not prescribe like a flax or a chia or like the algaes. And I kind of agree. I don't think that there's anything that compares to fish oil. And I worked for Nordic Naturals for years, one of my favorite fish oil companies, and they are full transparency, third-party testing. They will call you and say, hey, you bought this product, this is the lot number, it's rancid, or scores came back bad, there was a lot of heavy metals, we're pulling it, please discontinue, we're gonna send you free, da-da-da-da-da. And they really do that, they're excellent. Carlson's is a great fish oil company too. And then I can only speak to those because I'm very familiar, and I know the heartbeat of the company and that they have really good intentions. So yeah, but I wouldn't replace fish oil for anything else. But dark chocolate, not in huge amounts. Green tea, if you are someone like me who's super averse to caffeine, like I really can't do a lot of coffee. I can't do coffee at all, really. On occasion, I'll have an Americano or a decaf. It's rare, and it's usually when I have a migraine, like an up-and-coming migraine or full-blown migraine. And I've tried other forms of caffeine, it just doesn't do it. So coffee sometimes works. But green tea has a component called L-theanine, which is an amino acid. And amino acid, L-theanine is calming. You can actually take L-theanine in supplement form. That they put it in a lot of formulas for like ADD, ADHD, for stress relaxation, but it's a beautiful neurotransmitter, and it's why most people don't react to the caffeine in green tea. And then the last thing that I'll recommend is yerba mate. I like guayaki. I don't get some small potatoes, right? I got like 53 subscribers here. I know my place in all of this right now. So I don't get money from anybody. These are just, I can tell you, I've worked in 3 different health food stores. I was in and out of Wegmans and Whole Foods and independent health food stores for a very long time. This was my job. That was my world for like 8 years. Guayaki is solid. You can buy the yerba mate loose and make it yourself, or you can buy it in a can. I'm not a big fan of drinking out of a can because of the heavy metals, but they make them in glass jars too. And there's flavors. There is a hefty amount of organic cane sugar in the flavors, but like the mint one, if I'm gonna like decide, hey, I'm gonna have sugar today and hopefully feel good, I'll have the mint in the summer, especially because it's super cooling. There's some rose hip in there. But I just do the unsweetened. I just do the plain, and it is an Amazonian herb. It's amazing for athletic endurance, focus, concentration, mental alertness. It's how I would get through my shifts at the restaurant. And I still buy them. Ingles carries them here by me in Brevard. And most health food stores carry them. I think Whole Foods is doing away. Some stores are doing away with them in glass bottles. I hope Guayaki is not diminishing that completely, because I'm seeing a lot more of their cans in the fridge and on the shelves, and that would be a big disappointment. But I hope this information helps. Just a lot about belief in yourself, having someone believe in you. Some of the personality traits, you kind of need to be a risk taker and an innovator, and have a bit of disagreeableness inside of you in order to make it in the world as an entrepreneur. You know, it's not easy. And then I shared Leanne's story because it doesn't happen overnight. You know, all of these famous people that you see, and then you find out that they were plugging away for 20 years, 30 years. And Leanne's just a great example of being 57 years old and becoming pretty much world famous at 57. So you're never too young. And then I gave you some tips and tricks for focus and concentration, because I think it's really important. I think most of us struggle with that. And maybe I'll start to research ways to upload documents, and I can share the documents that I create as a PDF on my YouTube channel if I'm able to do that. I don't know if I need a certain amount of subscribers. I don't know how any of this works. I'm realizing that I need to get out of my Laura Ingle phase and back into the real world and learning how to do some of this stuff. But anyway, I hope that this all helps. I hope that you're all doing well. I love you all to pieces. Thank you for your support.